All right, rivalry week prediction video number 2. Did number 1 the other day where I talked about all the Friday games, the games that are on now. Texas losing to Kansas State. Shocking, I know. They've each scored 2 touchdowns, but Texas missed an extra point. I mean, they just can't help themselves. Anyway, today's video, though, going to do a preview of all tomorrow's games, Saturday games. And this is really where all the big rivalry games are, is on Saturday. There's a few good games on today. North Carolina State. A couple other ones. East Carolina hosts Cincinnati. But most of your big rivalry games that people associate with rivalry weekend come on tomorrow. Today we're going to talk about those games. I'll give you a preview and a prediction against the spread. Let's go. Yep, good morning, Annapolis. Uncle Lou here, though. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou. Live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and in addition to that as well. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already. Did you know I post college football videos almost every single day of the year? Some of them are even watchable. I don't know about this one. You can let me know in the comments down below. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Saturday games, and this is where most of the big rivalry games are, right? We got Auburn, Alabama, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Clemson, South Carolina, Oklahoma State, Michigan, and Ohio State. All the great games that we associate with rivalry weekend. We're going to talk about all those in today's video. My streaming schedule for tomorrow, as far as which games I'm going to stream, at noon, I'll be streaming on the Patreon page, and then prime time, starting around 7 o'clock, I'm going to be streaming right here on the YouTube page. So for those of you that are members on the Patreon page, live stream tomorrow at noon. If you want to check the Patreon page out and you haven't signed up yet, there's a link in the description of this video that'll take you to the Patreon page. We'll hang out tomorrow and watch all the noon games. What we got at noon tomorrow? Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Florida. So some big games on at noon. We'll be streaming that over on the Patreon page. And then for primetime, I'll be right here on this channel streaming for whoever wants to come and hang out and watch the primetime games. We got Texas and LSU, Oklahoma State, Clemson, South Carolina. Lots of good games at night, too. So we'll have a good time tomorrow. But today, let's preview these games. We're going to start with the noon games, work our way up through prime time. Now, as usual, everything I use in this video, the odds, the lines, the over-unders, spreads, all that kind of stuff is going to come straight from www.betnow.eu. I've been using betnow.eu for years. I've never had any problems with them. It's easy to get money in. It's easy to get money out. If you guys want to make or lose some money betting on college football, you can check out www.betnow.eu. There's a promo code you can enter. It's Uncle Lou, all lowercase letters, one word, Uncle Lou, and they'll give you a bonus on whatever you deposit. Good luck. All right, we'll start things off with my Georgia Bulldogs. Noon on ABC. Georgia travels right up the road to Atlanta to take on a terrible Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets team. I'll have plenty to say about this game in the Hype and Hate video, which will come out later this afternoon, the Georgia versus Georgia Tech Hype and Hate video. But, of course, Georgia Tech currently sitting on 3 wins. Not a good season again in Atlanta for Jeff Collins and the Yellow Jackets. They got absolutely destroyed last week by Notre Dame, 55-0. Georgia's been on a roll all season long. I don't know of anybody who actually thinks Georgia Tech is going to win this game. The spread is 35.5, just huge for a rivalry game like this. Georgia's clearly the better team. Like I said, I don't think anybody expects Georgia Tech to win the game or really to be able to even keep it close. The 35.5, I guess it depends on how you think this game is going to play out. Of course, Georgia takes on Alabama next week in the SEC title game, so if Georgia's up by 30 or 40 points in the second half of this game, I'm pretty sure you're going to see a lot of the starters come out and a lot of the backups go in. Now, those backups have had a lot of experience and a lot of playing time this season because Georgia's been up 30 or 40 points in the second half of almost every game they've played. And the reality is, and this is not trash talk, Georgia's backups, second and third stringers, are probably better than Georgia Tech's starters. I don't think there's any reason to think that you're going to see some sort of second half comeback by Georgia Tech. And by comeback, I don't mean winning the game. I mean, let's say Georgia's up by 40 in the third quarter and they take the starters out. I'm pretty confident Georgia's backups can maintain that 40-point lead to cover the 35.5-point spread. I think you either have to not bet this game or I think you got to take Georgia and lay to 35.5. Georgia Tech is just absolutely horrible. Like I mentioned, a week off of getting destroyed by Notre Dame, 55-0. 8-0. I'm going to take Georgia in this one and lay the points. All right, and then probably the biggest game of the day, honestly, and regardless of which one of these rivalry games you consider to be the biggest or the greatest rivalry or whatever, there's not a bigger game tomorrow than Ohio State on the road at Michigan. I mean, this is a big game every single year, as are all rivalry games, right? But it doesn't get much bigger than this. Both teams ranked within the top 5. Both teams still with a shot to win the division and the Big Ten as a whole. And both teams with a shot still to make the playoff. Each team sitting on just the one loss. Ohio State caught a loss early in the season in Week 2 at home against Oregon. And, of course, Michigan blew a second-half lead against Michigan State a few weeks ago, dropping a game to their in-state rival, Sparty. So each team sits at 10-1. The winner of this game will win the Big Ten East and play in the Big Ten title game, most likely against Wisconsin, although there are a couple of other possibilities, but most likely Wisconsin. So both teams with everything to play for this year in terms of preseason goals, right? If your goal is to win your division, win your conference, make the playoff, or win the national title, both of these teams, all of those goals still intact with a win tomorrow in this huge rivalry game. Harbaugh desperately needs a win over Ohio State. He's 0 for his career as head coach at Michigan in terms of beating Ohio State, yet to beat them. And there has been several years where Michigan has had pretty good teams, and it seems like in this game they find a way to lose it instead of finding a way to win it. Now, there's also been plenty of years where Ohio State was clearly better and put a beating down on Michigan. Ohio State's a 7-point favorite on the road in this one. Ohio State had one of, if not the best performances we've seen from any team this college football season last week when they absolutely destroyed a top 10 Michigan State team 56-7. They were up 49-0 at halftime. And I don't care if you say, well, Michigan State was overrated, they shouldn't have been in the top 10. It doesn't matter. Whatever you think of Michigan State, they're a decent team at worst. And to be up 49-0 at halftime is absolutely unbelievable. Now, Ohio State had a few advantages in that game, clearly, that they're not going to have in the Michigan game. Most notably, Michigan State's pass defense. Heading into the game last week, Michigan State had the worst pass defense in all of college football, 130th out of 130 teams. Michigan does not suffer from that same disease. Michigan's got a pretty good defense and maybe the best offense that they've had under Jim Harbaugh. Nothing like Ohio State's offense in terms of points per game and production and yards and things like that. But their offense, I mean, that's been the biggest complaint really from Michigan fans when they've looked at Michigan play under Jim Harbaugh. Really, it's been mostly offensive complaints. Their defense has been pretty good in most years. Defense pretty good again this year. Offense much better. Better enough to keep up with Ohio State? I don't know. It seems to me like if this game gets up into the 30s, Ohio State's going to win. I don't think Michigan can go toe-to-toe in a shootout type of game with Ohio State's offense. The game plan to me, if you're Michigan, is going to have to be to try to limit Ohio State's possessions and somehow try to keep them under 30 points and hope that you can win a close one, 30-28, 31-30, something like that. In my mind, the more high scoring this game gets, the less likely it is that Michigan comes out with a win. There's been several years under Jim Harbaugh where I've gotten fooled. I've drank the Kool-Aid. I've bought in. This is the year Michigan's going to get it done. And every single year I got burned. Told myself I wasn't going to let that happen again. I'm going to take Ohio State to win this game. Would I be shocked if Michigan won? No. But in my opinion, right now, Ohio State is clearly the second best team in football. They're playing like the second best team in football right behind Georgia. And as good as Michigan is, I don't think they're the second best team, and I do think Ohio State kind of hitting its stride at the right time. Can Ohio State cover the 7 points on the road? That I don't know. I'll be honest, as just a college football fan, a neutral observer of this game, not rooting or pulling for one team or the other, I hope Michigan can keep it within 7 because that's going to make it a great game to watch, right? As a college football fan, when you watch these big rivalry games, one of the things you're hoping to see is a good game, something that comes down to the end or at the very least something that's competitive into the fourth quarter. It's a home game for Michigan. I wouldn't be surprised to see Michigan come out hot and play a really good first half. I think Ohio State gets it done in the second half, though. I'm going to cross my fingers and take Michigan in the 7 points, although I do think Ohio State wins the game. All right, Florida State at Florida, 12 o'clock on ESPN. Florida, of course, has moved on, fired Dan Mullen. They gave Dan Mullen the opportunity to coach in this game if he wanted to, and he turned it down. He said, nope, I'm good. If you're going to fire me, I'd just soon pack my bags and leave now. Give me my $12 million. Thank you. And packed his little suitcase up, and he hit the road. So Florida Gators are without Dan Mullen. They promoted an interim head coach from within. This is a big problem for Florida not having Dan Mullen, right? Not only is Dan Mullen the head coach, he was the offensive coordinator and the play caller. Now, they had a co-offensive coordinator. That was the run game coordinator. Well, Dan Mullen fired him 2 weeks ago. So this offense has no play caller and no offensive coordinator. On top of that, we've all seen Florida play the last 2 weeks. They're in complete and total give-up mode. Florida State, on the other hand, I'm not going to try to convince anybody they're a great team. However, they had an opportunity halfway through this season to throw the towel in. Things weren't going well. They seem to have somewhat turned it around. They beat Miami a couple of weeks ago, which was a huge shot in the arm for a Florida State program that had lost that game to their arch rival Miami the last 2 or 3 years in a row. Florida State is playing better than Florida right now. Florida State has a coach. Florida does not. Florida State appears to be buying in to what their coaching staff, Mike Norvell and company, are selling. Florida obviously was not. Anthony Richardson supposedly getting the start in this game. For Florida, Emory Jones suffered an injury earlier in the week. At least that's the story. There's some rumors out there that they're just letting Anthony Richardson start this game because they don't want him to transfer. I don't know. I read a story yesterday that said Emory Jones is not hurt. He's available for this game if they need him. Who knows what the real story is? I'm not sure that it matters. I just don't think Florida has it in them this year to win another game. I'm going to take Florida State. I don't need the points. I'm a little bit surprised Florida is favored in this game. They got blown out by South Carolina a couple of weeks ago, looked absolutely abysmal, almost lost to Charleston Southern, giving up 52 points, lost to Missouri, which of course led to Dan Mullen's firing, and now the season is over. Their coach has been fired. I just don't know what motivation, if any, this Florida team has left to come out and give a decent effort tomorrow against Florida State. For that reason, I've got to take the Seminoles. I don't want the 3 points. I'm going to take Florida State on the money line. All right, and now what I think is probably the best rivalry in all of college football, year in and year out, over the course of history. Alabama and Auburn this year. Auburn hosts Alabama, and Alabama's a 20.5-point favorite. This game looked like it was going to be great 3 weeks ago, right? Auburn was in a situation to where if they were to win out and then beat Bama, they would have won the division and punched their ticket to Atlanta for the SEC title game. Well, that hasn't happened. Auburn's lost a couple of games, looked bad doing it, got beat by a horrible South Carolina team last week. Bo Nix injured, out for the rest of the year. Backup TJ Finley, a transfer from LSU, has had to play last week and now this week. Bama, on the other hand, headed to Atlanta for the SEC title game now, just, in my opinion, trying to get through this Auburn game without any injuries. That's probably the plan. Bama did not play good last week against Arkansas. Saban made some, I guess, somewhat controversial comments this week about his own fan base, basically referred to Alabama fans as self-absorbed. There's been some Bama fans, I guess, not happy with a struggle win over Arkansas, a struggle win over Florida, a struggle win over LSU, a loss to Texas A&M. And some of those Alabama fans have expressed their frustration, and apparently Lord Saban was not happy about that. He basically went on a 2 or 3 minute rant and tirade where he chastised his own fan base. Personally, I think it was hilarious to see Nick Saban yelling at his own fans. It's also hilarious then to see the Alabama fans all going, you know what? I agree with him. He's right. I agree with him. He's right. Hey, hello, dummy. He's talking to you. He's talking to you. Anyway, I do think Alabama wins the Iron Bowl this year. Things are just not shaping up good for Auburn. There's rumors that their head coach, who of course they just got this time last year, this is his first year, this Harsin character that they got from Boise State. There's rumors that he may be headed to Washington. That job is open, of course, after the Huskies fired their head coach, Jimmy Lake, a couple of weeks ago. Harsin is a Northwestern guy, meaning he's from the northwest part of the country. Some rumors he may be interested in that Washington job. We'll see. I don't know how motivated Auburn will be for this game. Backup quarterback, nothing really to play for other than the pride of this rivalry game. Just think that's not going to be enough. I do think Alabama will win the game. Can they cover the 20.5? Yes, they can. And that's disappointing, too, because this was a game, like I said, 3 weeks ago. I had this game circled as something that was going to, could possibly be a really, really good game. One of the all-time greats in this series with everything on the line for both teams. And Unfortunately, Auburn wasn't able to handle their business, and this game has lost a lot of its luster. That plus the fact that they're down to their backup quarterback. Hard for me to put a lot of faith in Auburn in this one. Really, the only thing you can point to in this game for any type of hope for Auburn is the fact that it's at Auburn. We have seen a lot of weird things happen at Auburn in this series. In fact, Alabama has not beat Auburn in Auburn since 2015. I think they snapped that streak. I just think Alabama's too much for Auburn this year. In fact, I think they cover the 20.5. That's just under 3 touchdowns. I could see Bama winning this game by 3 touchdowns. Give me the Gumps, later points. Penn State at Michigan State. This is kind of the consolation prize game, right? You know, about a month ago, you had all these teams sitting at 0 or 1 losses in the Big Ten East: Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. Well, the cream has already risen to the top. It's Michigan and Ohio State. Penn State and Michigan State sort of struggling over scraps at this point. Penn State is a 2-point road favorite against the Spartans. And I think Penn State will win the game. Kenneth Walker, who's been one of the most exciting players in all of college football this season, running back for Michigan State, got hurt last week in the game, didn't play in the second half. Not sure how much we'll see him this weekend in a game that unfortunately doesn't really matter for the Spartans. They're most likely headed to a pretty good bowl game, but not a New Year's Six game, in my opinion. Mel Tucker, though, he's got nothing to be sorry about. He just inked a $95 million contract. Absolutely unbelievable. And basically, it's for that win over Michigan, because outside of that, Michigan State really hasn't done much. They lost they lost to Ohio State. They got blown out before that, or blown out to Ohio State. They're probably going to lose this game, but good for Mel Tucker. Look, these coaches, I don't blame Mel Tucker at all. People are saying, oh, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't. The school comes to you and offers you that kind of money, you take it. I mean, look, let's be real. If Mel Tucker was sitting at 3-9, they'd be looking to fire him and not pay him a dime. So, you have a good season and the school comes to you with one of these big contract extensions and raises. I don't blame these coaches at all for taking it, because let's just be real. There is no loyalty in college football when it comes to coaching. There's no loyalty from the coach to the school, and there's no loyalty from the school to the coach. It's, what have you done for me lately? If you're winning, great. If you're not, get out. It's just the way it is. So when you have a year where you exceed expectations and you look pretty good and you find yourself in the top 10 for the most of the year, and the school comes to you with a huge offer, you take the money. That's what Mel Tucker did. Don't blame him at all. Shout out to you, Mel Tucker. But I think Penn State gets the win by more than 2. I'm going to take the Nittany Lions and lay the points. Vandy at Tennessee. This game won't be worth watching. 345 SEC Network. Tennessee's a 31.5-point favorite. Tennessee will win and cover. Vandy's one of the worst teams in the Power 5. They're absolutely horrible. I mean, you're talking Vandy, Kansas, Arizona. Those are probably your 3 worst teams, and Vandy might be the worst of the bunch. They're absolutely horrible. Some bad news for Tennessee today. They're losing a running back to the transfer portal, Tywin Williams, who he was pretty good this year. So there might be something else going on there that we don't know about. I don't know if maybe this is a grades issue. I don't know if maybe he got in some sort of trouble and the school's just, hey, just transfer and, we're not going to say anything. I don't know. It's strange because he played well when he played, and he played a lot. So it's kind of strange to see him entering the portal the day before the last game of the season. So it's one of those stories when you read it, you almost know, okay, there's more to this story that we're just not being told. I don't think that's going to matter, though. Tennessee still has Hendon Ho and a couple of good wide receivers. Their defense will be good enough against Vandy. I think Tennessee wins this in-state rivalry game by more than 31.5. Take the Voltard. Lay the points. Virginia Tech at Virginia in another game involving a team with no head coach. Fuente's been fired. Virginia's been the better team all year. Virginia Tech beat Virginia for something like 15 years in a row until last year. Virginia finally got over the hump and beat them. And I think they're going to do it again, and they're a 7-point favorite. So I'm not the only one that feels that way, that Virginia's just the better team than Virginia Tech. And like I said, not having a head coach makes it hard to put a whole lot of faith in the Hokies for this one. It comes on 345 on the ACC network. Not really, nothing too interesting about this game in terms of the landscape of college football. I mean, these aren't playoff teams or teams competing for ACC titles even, or New Year's Six bowls. I just wanted to talk about it because it is an in-state rivalry game. Virginia Tech is a coaching search going on at Virginia Tech. I've heard some Virginia Tech fans say they want Dan Mullen. There's some rumors about, of course, Shane Beamer at South Carolina, whose father, Frank Beamer, coached at Virginia Tech for all those years. We'll see which way Virginia Tech ends up going. But I'm going to take Virginia in this game and lay to 7 points. Wisconsin at Minnesota in a game that will determine basically who wins the Big Ten West. My money's on Wisconsin. Spoiler alert. 4 o'clock on Fox. Wisconsin's a 7-point favorite. I do think Wisconsin finds a way to win this game. I think it'll be closer than 7, though. Minnesota is better than people have been giving them credit for. Not that they're great, but they're better, I think, than most people think that they are. And usually the betting line on a game is an indication of what the general public or the betting public thinks about a team. And I think that Minnesota's a little undervalued. Wisconsin's been sort of inconsistent, although they have been playing better the last month of the season. This last month than they did the first half of the season. For sure, when they got blown out to Notre Dame and suffered a couple other pointless losses. Minnesota's at home. I think they can keep it close. Give me Minnesota and all 7 points because I'm probably going to need them. They might lose by 6 or something. Texas A&M at LSU, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Ed Orgeron's last game as head coach of LSU, and so the big question is this. We all know Texas A&M is better than LSU. At least they have been for the majority of the year. LSU's at home, and it's Ed Orgeron's last game. Can the Tigers win one for the Gipper, so to speak? Can they send Ed Orgeron out with a win? No, unfortunately they can't. They're just not very good. I mean, that's just reality. You got people announcing they're transferring here. Another situation, too, LSU. These players can't even wait till the season is over. They want out. They're entering the transfer portal. It would be a good story. Look, I don't hate Ed Orgeron. I don't. He's a character, and I like characters in college football, right? I like Mike Leach. Ed Orgeron's a character. The way he talks, the Go Tigers thing. He's the fact that he's really more of a cheerleader. He's almost a fan. That's what it seems like, really. That Ed Orgeron is a LSU fan who became head coach. I like that. I feel like Ed Orgeron's a likable guy. So I'm not happy to see him go. And it would be a good story for him to win this last game at home here at LSU. Unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. I think Jimbo Fisher's a better coach. I think Texas A&M's a better team. They definitely have a better defense. I like their quarterback even better than LSU's quarterback. I just can't see a way LSU pulls this off. Like I said, it would be a great story. And if I'm wrong here, it'd actually make me happy to be wrong here. I'm going to take Texas A&M and lay the points. All right, now the game, I think the second best game of the day in terms of implications for this year, conference titles and playoffs. Oklahoma on the road at Oklahoma State, 7:30 on ABC. I think this is going to be a great game. Oklahoma, we all know, has struggled for the majority of the year. However, they just have the one loss. If they win this game and win the Big 12 title game next week, there's a chance they could get in the playoffs. However, the same is true for Oklahoma State. They have just one loss. If they win today and win next week and win the Big 12 title, Oklahoma State could find themselves in the playoffs. At least it's a possibility, depending on what else happens around them. I think Oklahoma State has been the better team for the majority of the year. They've blown out a lot of the bad teams that Oklahoma has struggled with all year long. They've got the best defense in the Big 12 and really one of the best defenses in America. If you look at the numbers, Oklahoma State playing really, really good defense. Gundy's going to have enough offensively, every single year. I'm not worried about that. I think Oklahoma State breaks the streak and wins this game. They haven't beaten Oklahoma since 2015, and I couldn't believe that. When I looked this up this week, and I could not believe it. I saw somebody make a comment or say something about how lopsided this series has been throughout history, so I looked it up. Now, there's 7 ties in this game. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have tied 7 times. Setting that aside, though, they've played 108 times other than those ties. Of the 108 games that didn't end in a tie, it's 90-18 in favor of Oklahoma. 90-18. That has to be the most lopsided in-state rivalry in all of college football. You look at Auburn, Alabama, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Florida State and Miami, Michigan and Michigan State, Louisville and Kentucky, Clemson and South Carolina. Look at any rivalry you want. I don't know if you can find one more lopsided than that. 90-18. Wow. That being said, I think it's about to be 90-19. Oklahoma just has not impressed me this year. Caleb Williams, I think, has a great future. and a whole lot of potential. It's not going to be realized this year, and Oklahoma's going to fall a little bit short of a lot of people's post or preseason expectations, which was they would not only would they win the Big 12 and make the playoffs, but they would finally win a playoff game and make a national title game. One of the most, probably the first or second most popular national title pick in the preseason was Oklahoma. I think that comes to an end tomorrow. I think Oklahoma State gets this monkey off their back. I think they beat Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. There's a lot of rumors going around, too, about Lincoln Riley, and maybe he's going to LSU. Maybe he's going to the NFL. Maybe he's staying at Oklahoma. Maybe he's going here. Maybe he's going there. How much of a distraction is that this week? I don't know, but it can't be a good thing for the team that seems to be just as much a part of the story this week as who wins the game. It can't be good. I think Oklahoma snaps the streak, and they're actually a 4.5-point favorite. I think they win by more than that. I have a feeling this game might not be close. Give me Oklahoma State later points. All right, and up last, Clemson at South Carolina. Clemson's favored by 11.5. That's not right. Oh, my God, that is right. The Taters are favored on the road in Columbia by 11.5 over South Carolina. I'm not even going to make you wait. I'm taking South Carolina in the points. Can they win the game? I don't know. And they might lose by 3 touchdowns. Clemson, the last couple of weeks, has looked better than they looked all year. But I don't see how you can lay 11.5 with Clemson against anybody, much less this game here. South Carolina, South Carolina's just a hard team to figure out. What if I would have told you in the preseason that South Carolina was going to beat Florida, beat Auburn, but they were going to lose to Tennessee and Mizzou? That's what they did. South Carolina has beat Florida. They beat Auburn. They've lost to Tennessee. They've lost to Mizzou. They beat Auburn last weekend. They beat Florida a couple of weeks ago. Lost to Mizzou in between. They're hard to explain. Now, the 2 wins were at home, Auburn and Florida. The loss was on the road at Mizzou. Well, they're home this week against Tater, in-state rival Clemson. I don't know if South Carolina can pull off the upset here, but I'm taking South Carolina in the points. Give me the Gamecocks. Oh, and all the points, though. All right, there you go. Preview and predictions for tomorrow's rivalry games. This is the greatest weekend of all college football. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving yesterday, a great weekend, a great Friday, a great Saturday, just a ton of great football. I'll be uploading videos today, reacting to all these games that are going on today, and again tomorrow on Saturday, live streaming schedule tomorrow, Saturday, 9 a.m. right here on this channel, College Game Day Watch with Lou. 12 o'clock, I'll be live streaming all the noon games over on the Patreon page, and then 7 o'clock primetime, I'll be live streaming right here on this channel for all the primetime games. I appreciate all of you watching. Have a good morning.